Welcome to GER310 End of Life Issues. I am Mrs. Allen and I will be your instructor for this course. The goal of this course is to put as many tools in your toolbox as I can for you to be able to prepare for how you want the end of life to look, how you would like things to go if you get a choice. And this can go in a couple of different directions. For many of you, it will be preparing you to sit down with parents or grandparents and talk to them about what they would like the end of their life to look like. Again, if they get to choose. We don't always get that. Or if your parents and grandparents are either well prepared or if maybe they're already gone and you're looking at your own end of life issues, and you might want to talk with your spouse or your children, if they're adult children, to let them know what you would like the end of your life to look like if you get a choice. So we're going to work through a lot of the different issues and concerns and concepts that go into that sort of planning and preparation, and then it's going to culminate in an end-of-term project where I'm going to ask you to have that conversation in either direction, either up or down, with a loved one, and to create an end-of-life packet, or at least a good start to one, for that person's next phase. So this is a very practical course. It is a very hands-on course. No high-stakes testing, none of that kind of stuff. Even the quizzes that you have are, open-ended on the time, and you can use whatever notes you have, and you have 2 attempts on everything, with only a few exceptions. So low pressure, but it is going to take some time, and it's definitely going to take some thought to complete all of these assignments. The more thought and effort you put into them, the more real life use you will get out of this course. So let me show you how it's set up so that hopefully we have a really smooth, easy semester, at least in following the steps and accomplishing all the goals. I'm going to start with, let's look at my information. I've got a link out to my information. It's got my contact information for both Northwest and for Ole Miss, because I do teach on both sides of that house. I'm at the DeSoto campus, but I've got my Northwest email, I've got my Ole Miss email, and really probably the most effective way to get a hold of me is just click on that messaging feature in the course shell, and you should be able to reach me fairly easily. And never hesitate to send me questions, concerns, clarification, whatever it is that you need to work through the course. I try to be as informative as possible, but there's always those little bits and pieces that maybe don't make sense in any given moment. So never hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to hear from you and happy to respond to you. So as far as the calendar is concerned, the way I have my calendar set up is we have 3-week units till the end, and each of those units is set up with a specific pattern. Each week, the assignment or assignments due that week will be due on Thursday at 11:59. But knowing that this is a course that's often taken by juniors and seniors. Sometimes in your last semester, you may have a lot of pressures, a lot of things coming from a lot of different directions. So even though the assignments are due on the Thursday of the due date, I leave them open for an additional 2 weeks after that with no late penalty. Everything but the last 2 assignments is open from the very beginning. So this gives you some flexibility. You can work ahead. If you have a bad week and you fall behind, no problem. You got 2 weeks to catch up with that, and still, perform really well in the course. Now, at the end of the course, we're running out of weeks. It gets a little tighter, but for the most part, you have that flexibility to do what you need to do in the context of, all of your courses and all of your life's challenges and the life-work balance that you're trying to achieve. So hopefully that will be a useful feature. Now, once an assignment closes, that's it. It's done. So you want to make sure that you do get everything done within that 2-week ending window. So definitely, if you find yourself with a little extra time, work ahead, build in an even bigger buffer for yourself. In our syllabus and calendar module, of course, we've got the description, we've got the syllabus that has how your grade breaks down, AI policies and, submission policies, all that good stuff. It's got a copy of the course calendar, link to my instructor information, and a link to Cengage for your textbook. Now, you don't have to buy your textbook directly from Cengage. That just happens to be the easiest link that I can put in there for your convenience, but we're not going to use the actual MindTap activities. So you don't have to buy the MindTap ebook version. You can, go through the bookstore to use your financial aid. You can, go to a used bookstore and find a hard copy. Whatever methods you use to obtain your textbook, you do need access to the textbook, but how you access it is totally up to you. In each unit module, I do have links to the MindTap version of the chapter. So if you choose to buy that version, then you could just click on those links to go to the reading. But they're just there for convenience. If you choose another modality for your textbook, that is perfectly fine as well. So you have options when it comes to accomplishing that. Each unit module starts with a unit summary, which is basically just an outline of what our objectives are and just a little clip from the calendar of what is due when in this particular unit and when each assignment will close. When is your last moment to turn in any of those assignments. There's a folder with module readings and resources. So this is where I have those links to the MindTap version of the ebook if you want to use those. And again, you don't have to. You can use any form you want. I've got extra videos and supplemental things just to sort of round out some information. And then I also have some what I'm calling chapter summary slides. If the reading gets a little heavy and intense, then you can come out to these slides. There's a PDF version, and then there's also a link to my Prezi version that you can use to look at different aspects without having to read every word of the book when it just gets a little too heavy. So this is sort of going to outline things. It's got extra graphics and some embedded videos as well. Obviously the PDF would not have the video, but you just have these little arrows at the bottom, and it takes you from place to place inside that presentation. Gives you an overview of each section, and then takes you to the different slides that summarize all that information. So those are all just some of the extras and goodies and resources that you have to obtain the information that we're going to dive more deeply into in the assignment lessons. So for each unit, I have 4 assignments. There's usually 1 due the first week, 2 due the second week, and then 1 more due on the 3rd week. So, and again, everything's open 2 weeks after that due date to give you some flexibility of how you do things. Everything except for the last 2 assignments are open at the beginning, and the last 2 will open around week 7, so that you can get a chance to get really into the course and into the material before you try to attempt some of the summary assignments at the very end. So each assignment is in a folder with the exception of the first one. The first one is just our attendant verification quiz, that I have to turn in to the administration. Have you logged into the course, or do we need to let you go because you're obviously not going to participate? So just fill this out as quickly as you can. It's a sort of a pre-test overview quiz to give you a feel for the information and vocabulary and things. It is a complete incomplete deal, so you do not have to accurately answer anything to get credit for this. You just have to just go in and answer it, and you can take the quiz as many times as you like to familiarize yourself with some of that vocabulary and just use it as a sort of foundation. So fill that out as quickly as possible so that I can go ahead and check that box. The next assignment for the first unit is going to be a discussion. And so for every discussion, I have a lesson first, and then I have the discussion itself. So each lesson will either be a set of documents, a link out to a website with information, links to videos or embedded videos. You may have to click play multiple times before it actually starts playing, just a quirky thing of the system. But, delve into that lesson first. The prompt is included in the lessons, so you can always kind of read your prompt and say, okay, where am I going with this? And then go back and work through the lesson. And then, of course, you'll participate in your discussion. The discussion prompt includes things like how many paragraphs, what each paragraph should cover, what types of details am I looking for, and so on, so that you're not having to worry about that side of the activity, and you can really delve into your expressing your own opinions, reactions, understanding what are some new things you've learned, things that were surprising, and so on, into your discussion post. And then you'll reply to 3 different classmates. What I'm looking for in the reply is that you actually read a classmate's post. And you can indicate that for me in your reply by referring to something specific from what they wrote and why you chose then their post to respond to, what caught your eye, what was interesting, and what are your thoughts about it. So 3 of those. Right? And each unit will have usually 1 discussion. Then there'll be another learning activity, and again, there'll be a lesson of some kind, and then maybe an essay to write, maybe short answer questions, maybe multiple choice questions. I always have some sort of guidance as to what the assessment is going to look like in the folder, so that, you know what you're looking for as you look through the lesson. And you always have 2 attempts at each of these quizzes, and they are not timed. So you can take your time. As long as you don't submit it, you can, go into it, come out of it, and, et cetera, et cetera. When you submit those things, if it is like a multiple choice type deal, it will automatically grade. If it's something that requires, some sort of writing, then it will be sent to my inbox for me to grade. I try to, grade things fairly close to the deadline, and immediately after the deadline. If you turn it in early, once I have 4 or 5 early submissions in, I try to go ahead and start going on that grading. But I may or may not post those grades until I have, several of those already graded and done. So that'll be my pattern. And then the 3rd week of each one, there's a reading quiz. It's just to see how well you attended to the reading material. Again, if you get bogged down in the book, you can always use those slides that summarize things. There's a printable copy of those quizzes so that, again, you know what you're looking for as you read. All right, so that's the pattern for each of those learning units. I give you a little reminder heads up, not quite halfway through the course, that we do have that final project, and it is going to take you some time. It may take, 4 weeks. It may take 8 weeks. So depending on, who you choose and how much they already have done, how much access you have to that person, and so on. So you want to start planning out who and how and when fairly early. The requirements for the project are in the module at the very end of the course, and we have several different documents that go with it. In the instructions folder, it starts with the process. So this is how I want you to do the project. So you're going to choose a person. Again, maybe it's an elder of your own that you will probably be there to assist and would need to know about their documentation. Or maybe it's somebody you're choosing to assist you and they need to know about your documentation. And so I have a list of things to discuss and document. When you turn things in, I don't want your actual documents. I just want you to describe the process and what you accomplished. Your actual documents contain personal and private information, and those are not to be submitted as part of the assignment. I have some links to some end-of-life planners that you can kind of go through and just fill out the different pieces of that to organize all of that information. Or you can just use our list of questions. And the feedback I've gotten from this project from many students is that this project was actually pretty cool because they knew they needed to talk to loved ones about these issues, but it's always awkward, and it's always, you know, almost a little disturbing to say, hey, I need to talk about when you're going to die. But it being a school project sort of takes out the taboo, and it's just like, oh, this isn't about planning for your death, this is about doing a school project. And so you might find that the conversation actually can be a little bit lighter and maybe not quite as awkward. The next document has exactly what I want you to turn in. Of course, that's not where it is. Let's see. The next document has what I want you to turn in. There we go. The first document is going to be telling me about what you accomplished. You know, do you have a will? Is it up to date? Did you update it? Did you have to create it? Do they not have a will? And what is the plan to get that accomplished? Because you might not be able to accomplish it in this time frame, etc. And then each of those different questions, each of those different topics has, okay, here's what I want you to tell me about that topic. So this is going to be the, you know, what you talked about, what you accomplished. Again, personal information, documentation should not be included in this. This should be simply what you know, what you accomplished. So for example, you know, yes, my loved one has a will and it was updated, you know, November of 2021. It includes, you know, who they want their possessions to go to. It includes power of attorney. It includes medical proxy, or, you know, so on, whatever it is that it includes. So that's document 1. Document 2 is going to be a reflection about your experience. I say 3 to 4 pages. That's going to vary depending on what kind of writer you are. But just make sure that you thoroughly and thoughtfully answer each of those questions that I have put forth for the document. So don't get too hung up on pages and word numbers and that kind of stuff, but more really think about expressing your experience with this project. So that's the project. So hopefully that gives you a good bead on what we're doing, where we're going, how to do things. Again, never hesitate to contact me with your questions and concerns. You know, even if you just want me to look over an assignment that you've written and see if you're on the right track, happy to do that to make this course as really useful and relevant as possible. Have a great semester.